Yeah, yeah, fun. Yeah, have him bring his 5 closest friends, please.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Oh, they found the water tower. There is a water tower.
Yeah, I saw that. I was kind of giving Dan a heck because I didn't remember where it was.
I don't know about that, yeah, huh.
Right, yes, and we put together a team last year, so.
Good evening, everyone. It's 5:30 p.m. on February 24th, 2020 for our Moorhead City Council meeting. Madam Clerk, can we please get a roll call?
Shelley Dahlquist. Here. Sarah Watson-Curry. Here. Shelley Carlson. Here. Heidi Durand. Here. Deb White.
Here.
Larry Seljevold.
Here.
Chuck Hendrickson. Steve Lindos.
Here.
And Mayor Jonathan Judd.
Here. Can we please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. The Moorhead City Council welcomes and encourages public input on issues listed on the agenda or of general community interest, time and council permitting. Speakers are limited to 3-minute presentations. Advertised public hearings are scheduled so that the public is afforded an opportunity to speak. Public hearings are generally scheduled 15 to 30 minutes after the start of the meeting. However, the starting time may vary depending on other scheduled agenda items. Citizens wishing to address the mayor and council regarding a specific agenda item other than public hearings will be afforded an opportunity during the discussion of that item. Excuse me. Citizens wishing to speak on matters not listed on the agenda will be afforded the opportunity to do so under the heading Citizens Addressing the Council, usually scheduled at the beginning and the end of the agenda. Each person requesting the opportunity to speak is asked to fill out a request to speak form, which are located right outside in the lobby. All right, everyone, that moves us to item number 3 on the agenda, which are the agenda amendments. Are there any amendments to the agenda tonight, Madam City Manager?
No, there is not, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That moves us to number 4 on the agenda, which is the consent agenda. Any items to be pulled off consent this evening?
No items, except, John's right, the executive session, sorry, I should have mentioned that earlier. Executive session will be canceled for tonight. The issue's been resolved.
So for those folks at home, number 20 regarding the executive session will be marked off of tonight's agenda. Any other modifications, amendments? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Carlson, seconded by Councilmember Watson-Curry. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moves us to number 5 on the agenda, the recognitions, presentations. 5A, Historical and Cultural Society of Clay County Annual Report, presented by Ms. Maureen Kelly-Jonathan, the Executive Director. Welcome this evening.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share with you a few of the highlights of our year 2019. I've not yet prepared my formal annual report to the membership, nor have our financials been audited yet, but I can share a few of the high points. First of all, I'd like to thank the City of Moorhead for the very generous in-kind donation of space and utilities. We could not do what we do without your support. I'd like to talk a little bit about the exhibitions, the events, and then our financials, and then take any questions you might have. We began the year with the rest of the run of Beyond Bollywood, Indian Americans Shape the Nation, a Smithsonian Institution exhibition with which we engaged many Indo-American members of our community to include a local component in the exhibition and to develop programs throughout the 5-month run. It was a colorful and popular exhibition, and over 10,000 people saw it between October 1st and March 31st. Did any of you get a chance to see the Beyond Bollywood exhibition? We were also selected by the Science Center of Minnesota to host an exhibition called Race, Are We So Different?, which we set up in the atrium of the Yumkamp Center and did not charge admission for. Many school groups came through specifically to see the exhibition as a part of their curriculum. We also enjoyed another community partnership with NDSU's Emily P. Reynolds Costume Collection to mount the exhibition Suitably Attired, another popular display, this time of clothing representing how people express themselves through different suits. Lines with Power and Purpose was a traveling exhibition on historical editorial cartoons, and we were able to bring in both Trygve Olsen and Steve Stark, our community's 2 resident editorial cartoonists, to give highly attended presentations. For art lovers, we had the FM Visual Artists Annual Big Art Show and the Red River Watercolor National Juried Water Media Exhibition, as well as Narrative Geometry, the Art of Warli, paintings from a specific tribe in India. But we also mounted a huge in-house exhibition of a lifetime retrospective of Colburn Witston III's 40 years of photojournalism that was quite popular. We closed out the year with America's Monsters, Heroes, and Villains, an unusual collection of vintage toys that explored children's toys reflecting what was going on in the scientific world at the time that they were created. So, for example, Superman was created out of the space age and the atomic bomb's scary days. It was interesting to learn about the historic context for all of the monster toys we've grown up with all our lives here. We like to change the exhibitions 8 times a year, but in 2019 we had 10 different exhibitions, which is really quite a lot for an ambitious amount for a museum our size. 2019 was a year with a great variety of historical and cultural events. We started with the Essence of Hinduism. We're educated by the history of the Dakota POW letters with Dr. Cliff Chunku, many exhibition openings, and the June 9th celebration of Minnesota ratifying the 19th Amendment for women's right to vote. We integrated programming at the Comstock House more naturally into our schedule as we were in our 3rd year of managing that historic structure for the Minnesota Historical Society. The Midwest Viking Festival was held outdoors, while the Scandinavian Yemkomst Festival reveled indoors at the end of June. And history lectures on civil liberties, the flu epidemic of 1918, and World War I nurses continued into the fall. German Culture Fest was a success, and Pangea Cultivate Our Cultures was the best one yet. We say that every year, though. These community events draw anywhere from 800 to 5,000 people to the Yumkamp Center. Without the help of Holly, Michelle, and Chuck, we would not be able to do as much as we do for the community, and we thank them. Financially, we did pretty well in 2019. The Margaret A. Cargill Foundation has taken a liking to us and our work with Viking folk arts. They extended funding to us to continue our program called Viking Connection through June of 2020, and they've invited us to apply again for more money to continue that program. They also awarded us a one-time 2-year capacity building grant for a total of $297,000, every penny of which is already spoken for by specific components such as visitor surveys, board trainings, and the development of a comprehensive interpretive plan. We were also pleased to receive notice at the end of the year that we would be receiving an $89,000 grant from the Minnesota Historical Society toward changing out the lighting in the museum to make it more energy efficient. We think that the motion detection system will make a big difference by keeping the lights off until someone is actually in the exhibits at any given time, and that should be a real savings at the MCOM Center. The Minnesota Legacy Funds have been good to us, both on the history side and the art side. Most of the grants that we receive are for specific projects, and very few funds can be used for general operating. Use of funds is dictated by the parameters of the grant proposal and cannot deviate from the original. We can't just spend the money any way that we want to. We were pleased to end the year in the black with a small surplus of unspoken $4. All in all, 2019 was a great year. Lots of ups and downs, as is common in a nonprofit line, but overall, we made about 28,000 visitors happy. Are there any questions?
Councilmember White, sorry.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to thank you for your work and just share that I still think fondly of, it's been almost 20 years since I moved to this area, and I remember when I first came, and it was one of the first places that we visited, and I remember, I grew up in a place, believe it or not, where there weren't Norwegian Americans, and learning how to pronounce the word hjemkomst was an interesting thing. But what I really like is not just how, it was, for me, it was a way to learn about the history of our area, but I love the way that you also celebrate our current community and our future too. And so I think about Pangea is, many people hear me say that's one of my favorite events that we have, and the fact that we really celebrate the diverse cultures of all the people in Moorhead. It's really wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Durand.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a few questions. First of all, when do you expect your financials to be prepared? When will we have a chance to look at those?
Our auditor finishes up in May after the big audit season. We usually get second billing on that.
Okay. And then you had expressed your gratitude towards the city, for the in-kind donation of the space and utilities. Do we know what those utilities run per month? Or Marie, do you know, or Chris, do you know what that bill looks like?
Councilmember Duran, I don't know, Holly, if you know the monthly amount, but we do know the contribution is upwards of $400,000 per year that the city contributes.
$400,000 per year, and that's space and utilities?
And service, labor, setup, take down our staff time and labor that we contribute to HHIC.
Okay, that's a significant amount. I hope, I don't know this, but maybe you can inform me, enlighten me. How much does the county contribute?
The county contributes almost $200,000 in
So
cash.
the county as a whole contributes 200, and the city as a whole contributes 400? Oh, okay.
The city owns the ship and the church. Those two assets belong to the city of Moorhead and require interpretation. So we are under an agreement with the city of Moorhead to do that interpretation for them.
It seems to me that if it's a cultural society of Clay County, that their contribution might be a little bit more, but that's probably a conversation for a different time. But I appreciate you informing us of the exhibits and the events you held this past year. Thank you.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also just had a few questions. Of that county contribution, does any of it, does it all go to salary and fringe and that type of thing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Primarily for the collection work that we do, collecting the artifacts and archives of Clay County.
Okay. And then I did have a question about how the Historical Cultural Center tallies individuals attending. So you said, like, for instance, 10,000 people attended the Beyond Bollywood. And is that one person at a time, or is it a group of people? Like, if there's a group of 50 coming in and they pay one price, or schools coming in, how does that get calculated?
We have a daily tally sheet, and our computer actually, we keep track of who comes in under youth, who comes in under a group, who comes under senior, adult, all the different categories, and we have a report at the end of the day, and then that goes on to a monthly sheet, so then we keep track of that on a monthly basis, and then that goes into the annual report.
Okay. Do you know approximately of, say, that 10,000 for the Beyond Bollywood, approximately how many were individual, just off the street coming in, versus groups of students, groups of tours, things like that? Like a guesstimate of the percentage?
Because there were quite a few student groups. West Fargo students study India, and so they made arrangements to come over and bring their students in droves. So we had quite a few people in that regard.
And then can you, Maureen, can you talk a little bit more about the capacity building grant that you guys got from the Cargill Foundation? You said that you had some board training and a comprehensive, I think.
Comprehensive interpretive plan, board training, visitor count, which is a national survey of visitors program that will help us assess our visitors and learn more about who our visitors are. We've virtually never done any kind of analysis of who comes to the museum and why. And this should give us some real good, hard data on what they're coming for. Is it the ship and the church only? Are they expecting to see all Scandinavian things? What are their expectations, and how do we fulfill that? And then we also have a teacher and student component. So we have surveyed 200 teachers and all of their students, and we're finding out how well we fit up with their curriculum.
Okay. And then with that capacity building grant, is there a component of the board training on looking at futuristic planning as far as the feasibility of utilizing the space at the Yumkumps? I think it's been since 2009 since the city took over the building, and Historical Cultural has essentially been there rent-free for 11 years now, and the county used to pay a portion to cover the rent, but now that goes for that salary. So is there a component within that capacity building grant that you guys are looking at reimagining what that space is going to look like, or trying to determine how to maybe in the future pay rent for some of that space, or what is that entailing at all, if that is part of it?
It isn't up to us to determine how the space is used. We're a tenant of the city of Moorhead, and so we serve at the pleasure of the city, basically. We have the space that we need right now to operate and to generate the income that we do that keeps us going. I don't rule out that there might be a time when we would be able to pay some rent. That's a possibility.
But is that part of the capacity building grant, or
No,
a
that's
conversation?
primarily on programming. That's primarily looking at what are we going to be doing programming-wise, fundraising-wise in the next 10 years.
So is your board at all looking at or examining feasibility studies for looking at how to develop a funding stream to pay for rent in the future, or assist in a portion of it, or anything like that? Is any planning taking place right now?
Part of the board training will be on fundraising and teaching them how to do some fundraising, because it's not a fundraising board.
Okay. And then I did have some questions about the interpretation. And I know that there's a charge for the interpretation, so the city owns the building, and the city owns the ship and the, excuse me, the church. And then the Historical Cultural Society does the interpretation. How much is a citizen charged for that interpretation?
A citizen is
Yeah,
charged?
if I was going to go to the Umkumps to see this ship that we own as a city and in the building that we own by the city, how much am I charged to, and what does that entail?
It depends on your age. If you are a school child of Clay County, you get in for $2 a person. All Clay County children get a reduced rate. The regular adult admission is $10, seniors are $9, youth $8, and then we have an after 4 p.m. $5 admission. We have many groups, many free admissions as well. Approximately 50% of the 28,000 that I quoted have gotten in free. That is through festivals and through being members and being children, that sort of thing.
Do you know how many people come to the Yumcomp Center just for the interpretation
Of the ship in the church?
of the ship in the church? Thank you.
That is difficult, and that's one of the things that we're going to be measuring this summer with a survey that we're going to be doing, is we know that the FMCVB directs a lot of people to our museum and tend to say, if there's one thing you've got to see, it's this Viking ship. And I'm sure that they put it that way, you've got to see this amazing Viking ship. So I would say that is definitely the highlight of coming to the museum. And then they find out that there's a lot more going on, that we have 4 floors of exhibits.
So the $10 for an adult to see the ship and the church also is to see the
All 4 floors.
exhibit. So somebody could come in and see all of it, or somebody could just come in and see just the ship?
Or they come in specifically for the watercolor exhibit or for the clothing exhibit.
Okay. So at this point, there's no way to break out just the ship. If the ship were just to be a free visitor site to send people to, and you just then pay for the exhibit. So there's really no way to separate that out at this point.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And I believe the church requires being locked by the person who built it, but I couldn't say for sure.
Okay.
So it requires a tour guide, in other words.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Councilmember Dahlquist.
Thank you, Mayor. And maybe Sarah can help me with this, but I believe that the Plains and the Rourke are now, they don't charge an entry fee, and they have actually seen an increase in donations. Have you talked to either of them to see? And I think it'd be great to have like a tour. I mean, what a treasure to have, 2 museums and, in the historical museum. If we could have some kind of like tour and donate for, seeing all of them, and that it has been working for the Plains and the Rourke, that they actually are getting more money. Is that something that you guys have looked into?
We do not have the same situation because we have 28,000 people coming. We collected $120,000 in admissions alone in 2019, and that's a significant amount. And if we were to shut that off, that would definitely put a dent in the budget. What happened with the Plains Art Museum is that their admission line in their budget was so small, 1% of their budget was admission, that they weren't going to lose anything by not having admission. The same is true of the Rourke. So few people actually go to the Rourke and pay admission there, that it was not, they were not losing anything by going to free admission. We would lose a tremendous amount by going to free admission.
Can
I follow up since I was mentioned?
Sure. We'll go with Councilmember Watson Curry and then Councilmember Carlson.
Since Councilmember Dahlquist said I could confirm, I just want to. The Plains and the Rourke went to a admission-free. So full disclosure, I work at the Plains Art Museum and have only for about 6 months. So that started before my term there in 2017. And so I know a little bit about it, but it has changed the structure and the way that they accommodate things. I can also relate, Maureen, to the way you guys program things. I know you're planning exhibitions 2 years out, and that portion of attendees know that you have a large, if these live close by, see the school buses rolling in, so I know at times you guys are physically at capacity too, as far as with attendees using that. So I don't know if that's helpful, but it is a trend nationwide too, that people are transitioning to that. And I know a little bit about their budget for that, but it has balanced out as far as donations and some of the other budget line items that the Plains has too. So it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, but it is something that people are familiar with for sure.
I can tell you that they also have, both the Rourke and the Plains Art Museum have more and more benevolent donors than the Historical Society.
Yeah, they have some different diverse income streams too. I recognize that.
Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as the admission is concerned, for the charge for the interpretation of, if you were to separate the charge out for your exhibits versus just the church and the ship that's owned by the city of Moorhead, you had said that the city contracts with the historical culture. How much funding do we provide on top of that $400,000 that we give each year?
No, there's no dollar amount. I mean, there's no cash that comes to the Historical and Cultural Society.
So is that something that could potentially be changed, at least for the ship and the church, since that is owned by the city in a city-owned building? I don't see how we can legitimately charge our citizens to see something that essentially they already own.
There's a great deal of upkeep with it, I do know that. I'm not the person to ask that question, I guess.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Lindas.
I'd just like to give you a chance to maybe plug membership, since that would help defray and move the, well, I'll let you talk about membership opportunities. How about that?
Wonderful. We're always open to new members. We have approximately 600 memberships, which translates to about 800 members right now. Largest single number is the basic, which is $40. And we have a household at $60. We have a booster at $85, which is a common business membership, and then $125,000, and then a $250, and a $500, and a $1,000. And we do have one $1,000 member, and we have one $500 member. We would welcome membership, but I already send you a free newsletter, so.
Councilmember Duran.
Thank you. One quick follow-up question to a question that Councilmember Carlson had. Maureen, you said that you weren't the person to ask about whether or not we could differentiate some type of a fee for those just wanting to see the ship and the church. I appreciate that you said you're not the person that could answer that. Who would make that decision, or who might be able to have that conversation and make a decision?
According to the agreement that we have with the city, we get the admissions for the entire museum. And so that would have to be something discussed with the city manager.
Okay, so the city manager would need to have a conversation with you or with the board, or who would that go to?
It could be, the board of directors would be the most logical party to go and talk to.
So city manager and the board of directors, okay. Thank you.
So bring about any other questions or comments? Okay. Thank you very much, Maureen, for all of your work. And just so I'm sure, because I may want to bring this up at our State of the Cities, it's approximately 28,000 visitors you've had last year. Great, thank you again, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to 6A, which is the approval of the minutes of the February 10th, 2020 meeting.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Lindas, seconded by Councilmember White. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7, citizens addressing the council. Are there any citizens here tonight that wish to address the council? Well, I figured not. Seeing none, we'll move on to, hearing none. We'll go on to a public hearing at 6 o'clock. So it'll be 9, a public hearing for the abatement of property taxes for participating properties in the Make Moorhead Home Property Tax Rebate Program.
Good evening, Mayor.
Well,
Excuse me.
do we need to go in? Yeah, we need a motion for a public hearing first. Motion made by Councilmember Duran, seconded by Councilmember Watson Curry. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
I think Dan's in a hurry.
We're now in
Yeah.
a public hearing, and I wonder why Mr. Molly's in a hurry this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tonight, you're asked to hold this public hearing, and after the hearing, consider granting a 2-year property tax abatement for the Make Moorhead Home Property Tax Rebate Program. This homeownership program was initiated in 2012 to support new construction of homes in Moorhead. Attached in your packet is a resolution and a list of properties that qualify for the abatement. The Make Moorhead Home Program was authorized by state statute a number of years ago. This year's round has already been approved by Clay County as well as the school district. They've held their hearings and approved their portions of the abatement. The total property tax amounts rebated is $215,473 to support new homeowners in 193 homes in Moorhead. Once approved, Clay County is responsible for managing the distribution of the rebate payments to homeowners. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Has there been any questions or comments from anyone? Councilmember Duran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to let everybody know that I'll be abstaining from this vote because I am one of the 193 homes that is listed on that list.
Cool, congrats.
It's a beautiful home.
Anyone else?
Glad you're making Moorhead home.
Anyone else have any, Councilmember Seljevold?
Dan, what is the school board, they just jump on, I mean, just because everybody else does? Do they have any comments about this?
You know, I can't answer that question. I was not at the meeting.
Councilmember Seljevold, yeah, they're very supportive of this. We go in the audience and watch it being presented by their superintendent every year, and they do very much support it and really don't have a lot of comments about it, other than encouraging people to move to Moorhead and buy a home.
I was looking because I moved. I don't know if does it carry with the property or with the owner or the builder? I gotta make sure I don't, because I moved into a house.
Were you the?
New
Oh, wait.
construction.
Well, I don't vote anyway, so I'm good.
Right, and I believe it's,
We're happy you're here too, Mayor.
yeah,
I had to make sure.
it's only for new construction too, Mr. Mayor.
Right, so even if we moved in to new construction within the abatement period, though,
The first 2 years.
I think I might have. I didn't, it's not mine, but I think it carried with the, it carries with the property. All right, well, I don't have a vote, so I think I'm being clear. Mr. City Attorney? Okay, all right.
Well, I think it's an excellent program. I'd be happy to move the resolution in our packet.
Any other further comments or questions? Thank you, Dan, appreciate your
Thank you.
work on this.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Molly.
Happy Dan Day.
All right, then, if there's no other comments?
All right, I moved to, I'm sorry, how does this work?
You have to
I know.
close.
Close the public hearing.
Second.
Okay, so there's a motion to close by Councilmember Watson Curry, seconded by Councilmember Carlson. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are out of public hearing. Is there a motion to?
So moved.
Thank you. That's 9A for those at home, authorizing the abatement of the 2020 property taxes payable for qualifying properties. Motion made by Councilmember White, seconded by Councilmember Dahlquist. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, folks.
Now Dan can go have birthday cake.
It's
Have
his
fun tonight,
mother.
Mr. Molly. I think that gets us down to item number 18, mayor and council reports. Any council members wish to speak on the good of the order? Councilmember Watson Curry.
Well, thanks for the promotion. Yeah, I feel like we're all giddy because we're single digits to Tasty Freeze and Dairy Queen opening. So I think maybe that's why we're feeling giggly today. But I last Thursday attended the MetroCog Policy Board, and there were two really interesting presentations. One was the Fargo Safe Routes to School project, which was it's really fascinating, and it's a great report for our transportation staff to take and engineering staff to take a look at, as far as how it becomes this cycle where we want kids to be able to bike and walk to school, but sometimes there becomes more traffic or there's higher speeds, and so then they consequently aren't biking and walking to schools. So there's great information as far as projects and then interventions that can be utilized. And it's a fascinating study, and there's also some great resources for family members too if they're looking for safe routes to school, which doesn't help our school district, unfortunately, but I just want to uplift that there was a lot of great public work. We also approved the final report for the Fargo Moorhead Bicycle Gaps Analysis, which is another document to just kind of give some support for technical staff as they're moving forward. They did a lot of outreach. They actually had some boxes along some bike trails and other facilities, and so it's pretty fascinating what people were weighing in and just completing our network for bike access. And one of the top picks that made the list was a bridge close to the Trollwood Performing Arts School. So that was one in Moorhead that wasn't just part of like completing a network, which was really fascinating. And so that would be pretty cool to connect those river trails and alleviate some parking issues and give folks a new way to experience and access Bluestem. So it is on the website if you look for Bikeways Gap Analysis on FM MetroCog's website. So just wanted to share those resources. That's all.
Thank you. And anyone else wishes to speak? Councilmember Dahlquist, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. CAP LP does provide free tax services for people, and that's at the Family Center. And also, remember to vote if you are interested in the primaries on the 3rd. And you can always check out the state of Minnesota, Secretary of State of Minnesota for all the laws, but everyone can vote on the day. Just find out how you can do it on the website.
So,
Thank you, Councilmember Dahlquist. Councilmember Lindos.
I didn't know if you saw me.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Thank you.
You're good.
Thank you, Mary Judd. So I went to a few things. I attended the Fargo, Moorhead West Fargo Chamber Economic Forecast, and Governor Burgum's talked, Rich Karlgaard. I'm going to just summarize sort of what I heard, and that was unemployment rate around here is really low, and jobs and quality of life and housing are things that draw people to our community. And everyone, governor included, is talking about workforce development. And, you know, that's not surprising. The Moorhead Public Schools with their career academy comes out looking very nice for that I also attended the Kyra Global Development Organizations. They had a event on Saturday where they basically got people from their community, kind of leaders and other voices, to kind of express their challenges, but also what they loved about Moorhead. Again, it was really fun. Well, they did mention the snow and the weather was something needing to get used to, not surprising. But, you know, they mentioned that we're a welcoming community that we see there. They feel safe and secure, and it's a wonderful education. They did say that there was a challenge in translating their skills into relevant employment opportunities. And coupled with what I just heard at the chamber saying workforce development, there seems like there's this really good opportunity to have the city and local education groups figure out how to better prepare new residents to transition into jobs. You might want to talk about the coffee with the mayor, Mayor Judd, a little bit, but it was, I was going to say, it was really fun. Councilmember Hendrickson and Mayor Judd, myself had a wonderful discussion with citizens. Interestingly enough, they totally echoed what Councilmember Watson-Curry was saying about connectivity and bike paths. Overall, I think, there's a lot of different things said, but one of the overriding themes was the interest to connect and have safe walking and biking paths for everyone. And there's an opportunity there. They talked about needing potentially a little more forethought with the public schools about safe crossing. So think of that before the school's put up or while the school's being put up, so we don't have to worry about our kids being, so we can have safe crossings on busy streets. And it's easy to say, but I think there's a lot of little challenges in those. And finally, the climate conversations in the public square. We had one on just last Thursday. These are 4:30 on the third Thursdays, and Dan Molly was able to present about the Green Step City status of Moorhead. It's pretty cool where we're at and where we're going, and I think Ken Foster was also there and was talking about the Bush Foundation grant, developing and addressing resiliency in our community and area. And both of those things, I think Moorhead has taken a lead in. It's kind of neat to see. We have another climate conversation on March 19th. Water is going to be the theme. That should be appropriate.
I would agree. Councilmember White.
I'll just mention that some of us had the opportunity to tour Riverhaven today, which is, a building formerly owned by the city of Moorhead and now privately owned. And it's great to see the work that they're doing on the renovation. And it was neat because, this is a building that has this historic significance. It was a WPA project in part. And so if we look at what had changed our community, we went from a time when, during the Great Depression, when the WPA was a project to get people back, get them a job so that they could feed their families. And so we looked at even some of the stones that they've salvaged from the stonework from stonemasons who would come in just to work on rocks to build the outside of the building. And they've preserved so much of that, but also are breathing new life into it. And it's really exciting I know that they already are booking many different events, and it's exciting to see something that is a beautiful building and also really, one of the things that you'll notice when you go in there is they're opening up the inside, and so they're really celebrating the beautiful view of the Red River. So it's just going to be a fantastic place.
Oh. Well, thank you for attending that. I can't wait to see
it's great.
what it looks like inside. So what is the basement functional too?
Yes, so they'll actually have some in the basement. It will be some for part of when they're having events. So for instance, it could be where he gave us examples if there was a wedding that the bridal party could get ready down there. So they'll have, rooms for all of them to get, the wedding party, yes. All the people to get ready down there. So there'll be space in the basement for that. So it's a complete renovation from the basement up. So,
good.
yeah.
Cool.
It's really great, yeah.
You're pointing? You?
To me.
Okay, you're like, Councilmember Carlson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Moorhead Business Association and the Moorhead Parks and Rec and other groups that were involved in our festival that occurred here in Moorhead. There were several events over several weeks. I was able to participate in a couple of them, and it was just absolutely fun, and I can't wait to see what they do next year with Festival. I think it's just one of these events that's going to continue to grow in our community so we can embrace this lovely season of ours that lasts seemingly longer and longer every year.
Correct, it does, for many. Anyone else have anything to add? Okay, I'll just be brief. Thank you for Councilmember Lindahl for talking about the coffee session. Again, as always, very engaged session. The only thing I'll mention out of that is I'm hoping and asking all the residents to be cognizant of the safety and the concern for the students that do have to walk and ride their bikes as it starts thawing outside. I've read on social media some of those thoroughfares. They're not safe, folks. I mean, if we can figure out a way to plan ahead to watch the kids as they're crossing. If you see a child trying to cross the road to get to school, cut them a break. Let's just slow down, pause, let the children cross. I live close to Horizon. I'm seeing some near misses. We're all in this together. I know life is busy, but let's not have a tragedy on our hands in our community. So if we can do our best to kind of slow down, watch for bikes, watch for kids, that would be great. Also, the only thing I will add is myself, city staff, and also Mayor Olson and his city staff had a chance to attend the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce at their sessions priorities events. Thank you for the FM Chamber for setting it up. Thank you for helping facilitate that, Madam City Manager. It was a good event to see what the priorities are for our legislators, rather, down in St. Paul. Very informative event as well. So I just want to send a shout out to the Chamber for helping us out with that. Other than that, Councilmember Dahlquist.
Thank you, Mayor. I forgot to mention that when I stood in for you at the VFW Derby, Moorhead won every race against Fargo and West Fargo, and I did have to rub it in to the other mayors.
Thank you. And I need to get back to Derby Dan. Thank you to Derby Dan for helping to create the winning vehicle at all of those races, and that's something, again, I will relish and be able to rub in the other mayors, at least for 1 year. So thank you, Councilmember Dahlquist, for being able to attend that event. Thank you. And just so you know, that event helps support the VFW and our veterans in our community too. So thank you to the VFW, Fargo VFW, for putting that on along with Jay Thomas. So, unless anyone else has anything else to add, it's your show, Madam City Manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. Our clerk, Christine, is going to send this around to you, a handout. Every year, we want to take this opportunity to thank local businesses for everything they do as far as donations and sponsorships for our park programs and for other programs that we have here in the city. So what you're receiving is our annual list of all the businesses in and around Moorhead that have donated and sponsored. And we couldn't have our local Parks and Rec programs without these donations and sponsorships. So we're extremely grateful. There are pages of donations and sponsorships. In addition, every year I am required by the City Council to come and report on specials and reductions that we've offered to the community that I've authorized. So I report to you on what we have offered as discounts. So our revenue would decrease a little bit by the discounts that we offer. And that is on the back of page 1, so page 2. At the bottom, there are golf specials that we did in 2019. We offered in 2019. And I need to go over those real quick based on the instruction to me. One was weekday morning rate, $30 tea. Holly, are these for, is Holly here? I think these are also for 2020, by the way. So I'm reporting to you on what we're offering for 2020 in addition to 19. So $30 if they tee off before 11, Monday through Friday, they get 18 holes in a cart with that. That's one of the specials. We have a weekend twilight rate at our golf for $23. Tee off after 4:30, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That doesn't work right now because it gets dark. As soon as the golf course is open, which hopefully will be soon. Fall special beginning 9/14/19. So in the fall, we had a fall special. Pay for 9, get 18 holes, Monday through Friday. Frequent player card, we're offering that again, $32, saves you $3 off a 9-hole or $5 off 18 holes of golf. And DIGA, coupon book, half off green fees, 18 holes before 2 p.m. weekdays and after 2 p.m. on weekends. So those are the specials that we offered last year and we'll be offering again this year. So, and thank you again to all the Moorhead businesses that do sponsor and donate to our Parks and Rec department. Thank you.
And I want to echo the same sentiments, thank you, but also remind our Moorhead residents, please support our businesses, because if we support them, they can help support us. So again, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, if you will. So thank you all. All right. So I believe we do not have an executive session. Is there any new business that we need to discuss? Any citizens that want to address the council? All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Councilmember Duran, seconded by, you both said that at the same time. We'll give it to Councilmember Carlson, and we are adjourned. Good night, Moorhead.